You guys know I've been taking in a lot of extra entertainment since the whole stay-at-home order here in the States. I know you guys got the same thing in Canada, right? All 8 days you stay in the house. I watched an interesting piece of cinema over the course of the weekend. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, but it's called Scoob. Are you familiar with this film? It's based on the life of it's Scooby Doo. That's what it is.
Scooby-Doo, based on the life of
Yes,
Scooby-Doo.
yes, it's a new Scooby Doo movie. It's called Scoob. Jonathan, I know you're an author, and I know what you're thinking, but no, you do not have to have read any of the books to follow this movie. Like you can jump right in. Like no novel reading requirement.
I'm just afraid that the metaphors and the themes and the narratives could be over my head.
No, I think you'll be able to pick this one up pretty easily. So what I noticed when I listen, you ever watch something like as a kid and you go back as an adult and you realize how absolutely stupid it is? Well, here's what I figured out after watching Scoob, and I don't want to ruin it for the listeners out there who have this on their top 10 list for maybe this weekend or something. But I realized that the first old man, and I don't know what kind of like ageism bias the writers of Scooby-Doo had against people like 55 and over, but AARP should submit a complaint because the first person that they meet that's over 50 is the person that did it every single time. Like at the end of every episode, it's like, oh, Zoink Scoop, it's old man Ralph Richardson from the farm, and then we never would have thought of that. And then he's like, yeah, and I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for that stupid dog and you meddling kids. Like every single Scooby-Doo episode, the first geriatric that they meet in that episode is the monster, like 100 times out of 100. And AARP, if you're listening, if one of our two listeners is an AARP representative, I'm ready to craft a well-versed angry letter to Scooby-Doo for ageism because, everyone over 50 is not like a swamp monster or a ghost or something. And I think in these sensitive times, Scooby-Doo, it's time to grow up, okay? Let's get a movement started. You guys have persisted with this long enough. Get over yourselves, Scooby-Doo. It's 2020, for God's sake. Speaking of that, PT Distinction gives you your very own branded software. It saves you hours every week and gives your clients even better results. Better results than those kids in that mystery machine and their ageism. Speaking of PT Distinction, Jonathan Goodman, who is not a geriatric, which is probably why he's such a good guy. He'll be dressed as a swamp monster. His podcast, Go Too Long, has worked out a deal with PT Distinction. So if you go to PT Distinction now, and I've got a link somewhere. It's onlinetrainer.com/PTD. Go to PT Distinction. They're going to give you guys 60 days of a trial period for PT Distinction, which is twice as much as 30 days. Spoiler alert, that's 2 months. In addition to that, they give you 50 automated generated text messages to allow you to hold some accountability with your clients. PT Distinction, going over to onlinetrainer.com/PTD. Speaking of online trainer, the Online Trainer Academy that we train online here. It's the Online Trainer Show. If you go over to onlinetrainer.com/academy, you can get hooked up with the legendary OTA, the Online Trainer Academy. You can coach clients online responsibly and profitably with the Online Trainer Academy Level 1 certification program. And I think I've read all my papers so far. I've got like 60 papers to read from. You wouldn't think it because the show's got I've got more papers than we've got listeners. But I'm gonna let the somebody hit the jingle. Let's get this thing going. I'm exhausted already.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Goodman, and welcome to the Online Trainer Show. Today is episode 5, and apparently episode 5 is the moment where Ren runs out of stories to tell that appropriately transition into his advertisements. That being said, the topic is pricing and packages for your online training program. Thanks for listening.
This is the Online Trainer Show, Trainer Show, Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show.
We shouldn't have a podcast. This is what episode is this? 5?
I just said it.
Did you? Oh.
We don't even have the jingle in between when we record. I literally said it 2 seconds ago. The jingle's being put in afterwards. There was nothing that could have... all that this tells me is that you don't listen to anything I say.
I do have a tendency to doze when you start talking.
Like, is this news?
Carolina,
Like
Jonathan's voice is like a shot of melatonin for me. Like I doze like it's like Goodman induced narcolepsy. I can't help it. Anyway, Keto, how things going on in your part of the planet? We've got Keto, the talented, gifted, enigmatic, first lady of Barry. Is that what it's called? First lady. Would you be the first lady? Like the first Barry? Is that how does that work?
Oh my word. No, we're not doing that. No.
Would you be the first lady of Barry? You need to get some new dresses. You need to get some of those dresses that zip all the way up to the neck.
If you haven't heard, she dates the mayor.
Like a Victorian,
yeah,
style. That's totally my style. Victorian style, like up to the neck and like long. Yes, that's totally what I'm going for now. And now actually, so Ren, this was actually really funny because it just happened last night, and I want to know if it's ever had dreams about people in the fitness industry, even though you've never met them before.
Whoa, I'm not sure I like where this is going. Cover your children's ears, people. Go ahead.
I don't know what to think about where this is going.
No, it was just funny. It just reminded me. Well, last night it was funny because there was like a random cameo by John Berardi in my dream. It was, I don't know, we were all together. It was like a family thing. Our kids were out. Jonathan, I think you were there with Calvin. Like, I don't even know what the heck was going on. But
you're protecting yourself now, pretending that the kids were there.
Oh, no, seriously.
We all know you've been separated from the mayor for a long time.
Keto, do you mind if I quickly tell the people? For those that don't know, Dr. John Berardi is he's the PN guy, Precision Nutrition. So just put that out there. He's the other
handsome man. Very handsome man.
A great looking individual. Just
a
lovely man.
I should have known that this is where you guys are. JB, this is not the case. And we're not doing it.
Oh,
but anyway,
you're on an initial basis now.
Oh, look what I got, Carolina.
What the hell is Jonathan? What?
This is a banana holder.
Jonathan is holding up.
Amber,
legendary. Okay, so for our viewer, for our listeners, for our two listeners, he's holding up a banana holder, and there's an entire joke behind a banana holder.
It's a sexual joke.
But if you hadn't figured that out,
you can fit an entire single banana in here.
I don't.
And it will not go mushy in your bag. And if you look at the banana holder, this banana holder is the Banana Guard. The Amazon reviews of it are amazing. You could put any size banana in here, any shape. It could twist to the left. It could twist to the right. It could be a big thick banana. It could be a smaller banana.
It doesn't matter.
You could probably even put a couple plantains in this banana holder.
So
and Carolina, I just wanted to bring this to show it to you.
I never thought I'd say this, but let's go back to Carolina and finish this dream out.
Carolina, her story. So if I may finish, guys, jeez. Anyway, I was remembering the time that I actually did have a dream about Dean Somerset, and that was before I ever met him in person, and it was hilarious because he was teaching a seminar in a playground because he was teaching us all about mobility in jungle gyms. And so if you can imagine, he's like, I don't know, 6'4", he's like 6'5", he's like an entire foot taller than all of us on the show.
He is very tall.
He's very tall. And so in my
also
dream,
a very handsome man, Carolina.
There we go.
Also a very handsome man. Dean Somerset, very handsome man, deansomerset.com.
Anyway, my point was, you guys are the closest thing that I have to like coworkers, and I don't know why like these dreams are hilarious to me because it's not people that I consistently talk to. Like I see you guys more often than anybody else in the fitness industry.
Seriously,
so it just baffles me when my brain does that and brings up random people that aren't necessarily connected to my life. The end.
Thanks for letting us know that. I appreciate you letting us know that. Really love it when you bring your personal life and fantasies into the podcast. Really gives it a lot more flair. Gives me an opportunity to bring up my banana holders and props.
I'm just so scarred right now.
Right.
I'm not scarred. I'm you know what it is? You know when the best endings to movies are ones that you fully expect. And
like
it's
Old Man to Winters?
and comfortable. Like it's always the old man in Scooby-Doo.
Right.
I feel like that. I feel
Huh.
like this is what I knew was going to happen with Carolina on the podcast, and it's satisfying.
That's appropriate.
Yeah.
So do we actually have a topic today?
All right.
Is there any online? Jonathan, what's going on in your world? You've got a V-neck on. Talk to us about it. Is that a
I
crew
do
neck?
have a V-neck on. I
There
do.
we go.
This is the first day it has gotten hot here in Canada.
Nice.
First couple episodes, I was wearing a long sleeve shirt. I know, not a V-neck. It has gotten very hot here. It's like I turned the air conditioning on. You know what I ordered? I ordered something called a chili pad. Actually, in Canada, it's called a perfect sleep pad. We just ordered it today. And this thing goes underneath the sheets of your bed. For anybody who is like me and sleeps really hot, I wake up in a sweat every night. And then my wife is in a literal snowsuit. Like she will sleep, sweatpants, wool socks, and this big sweater that our friend Ben Mudge from Ireland gave to him. Shout out to Ben Mudge. He's amazing. Gave me this sweater from Belfast.
Awesome.
And she wears that to bed. And I'm like, honey, I really don't like it when you wear a snowsuit to bed. Why are you wearing a snowsuit to bed? I'm so hot. I'm waking up so sweaty that we have to change the sheets. How do you have no circulation in your body? So if that story resonated with any of you, you can buy something called a perfect sleep pad in Canada, or the chili pad in the United States. You put it underneath your sheets. It's a very thin layer of water, like so thin that it's not like a water bed. You don't feel it. And what you can do is you actually set the temperature on both sides of the bed independent of one another.
Ooh,
What this means is that now my wife gets to not wear a snowsuit to bed.
There was something in it for you. There was something in it for you. We knew that much.
That's the big news in my life. This is a very sexual episode.
Amazing.
That's
Amazing.
what's going on with me.
If you're just tuning in to the podcast, we've just found out that Calvin was a miracle baby.
Somebody had to pierce the snowsuit.
Yeah. I think this is a great time to switch over to our topic. I have no segue for this, but I think it's time to move on. So
I think we've just
our
given up
It's a
topic
miracle.
today,
No, it's also a miracle that we're even here. So there's your segue.
It is. And this is episode 5 again. This is 4.
Yeah.
This is 5. So
Doesn't matter.
we've got a topic today that you guys may be interested in. And I hear these questions a lot, and I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Goodman here, who probably slept very well last night, and we'll get some phenomenal answers today from his ice pack.
No, I didn't, because we don't have it yet. We don't have it.
Oh, you don't have it?
No, because I didn't sleep that well. So I was like, I got to get one of these.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and log out of the podcast now. Go play Tetris or something. But pricing and packages.
You know what I learned? I
What
learned
did you-
that solitaire, you know, the old like Microsoft solitaire.
Here we go.
I learned that still gets used. It's like, I can't remember the name. It's a confounding number of times. It's like 30
Really?
million times a month or something that thing still gets played.
Really?
That's how bored people are.
It's like
Yeah.
And
Windows
yet
95.
they still aren't listening to this podcast. Go on. What's the question?
So pricing.
Yeah.
Pricing and
let's talk about that.
packages.
Cool.
Let's talk price. You know, in my real life, on a daily basis, I get to talk to, you know, other coaches who are going through the online trainer academy process, and you get a lot of questions
Mhm.
about what should the prices and packaging. How do I do it? So we just happen to have an expert on the podcast today. Mr. Goodman is an expert in pricing and packages and banana holders. So talk to us, Jonathan, if I can call you Jonathan again. Give us some insight into pricing and the packages. Like, what do the people out there need to know?
There's a couple things. I'm so glad you asked this question. We certainly didn't plan this. Pricing is one of those. Pricing is probably the most simple, most complicated, most important decisions in your business. And I say all of those things because pricing will make or break you. If you don't do it right, and a lot of people don't, they figure out very quickly that they don't have the margins to sustain and or grow their business. So they effectively price themselves out of business. At the same time, if you're really concerned about your pricing, you probably should just pick something and go for it. and not really think that much about it, because what's most important is that you start now, because you can always change your pricing later, and you should systematically increase your pricing. So we could talk about pricing theory, certainly, but I want to first start with perhaps the biggest misstep people make when they price their services, which is putting any care and consideration into what anybody else is doing. What we get a lot with what our coaches, when you're one of them. We have 9 coaches that help business mentors, coaches who help us students with the Online Trainer Academy, onlinetrainer.com/academy. And
well done,
and
sir.
Thank you. We're getting the segues, we gotta get it somewhere. What they often deal with is they get a lot of questions, say, hey, what's everybody else doing with their pricing? And it seems like a natural thing to do, right? It seems natural to say, okay, if I want to do something, I want to figure out what other people do first in order to kind of model that. And there's a couple main problems with that. One is most online trainers have no freaking clue what they're doing. Like literally, it's become a joke. I mean, with this pandemic that's happened, there's of course been a tremendous amount of media that's been produced about online training. And the advice given is so abysmally bad most of the time, because not many people really have worked with a lot of people. Everybody's kind of making it up, right? We have the advantage, we have such an information advantage. We have such a legacy advantage, having done this for 8 years now with tens of thousands of people, that we don't need to make it up. We don't need to struggle and say, hey, we have to talk about online training this week. Google. Okay, here's something that I can copy and write in this article. Because that's basically how the media works and most webinars and education systems work. And what people do when they try to figure out their pricing is they copy others with no regard whether the other people they're copying are successful or know what they're doing. So the first step is to probably not copy others. But if you are going to copy somebody else, look for believability indicators. Mm-hmm. Is this person actually successful that you know of, right? That you can actually prove. Somebody says they're successful? Nah. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Has this person been successful more than once in different situations? Because if they've been successful just for themselves one way, there are a lot of confounding factors that could have contributed to that. It's not saying that it necessarily doesn't apply to you, but it certainly doesn't necessarily apply to you. So has this person been successful in multiple ways, in multiple situations, doing what you want to do? At least 2, probably more. I look for 3 to 5 if I'm going to believe somebody in what they're doing. So those are the 2 indicators. Do they actually do? Can they prove that they actually do what they say that they do? And the second is, are those believability factors present? Most of the time, there's no way for you to know this. And so then when you actually look to do your pricing, you say, okay, well, my situation's unique. I know that in today's environment, I can create my own market because I understand why I'm unique. I understand my market. You can go back previous episodes to learn more about that if you want.
Right.
So I understand what makes me unique, which means that I'm actually not competing with anybody. Because I know in online training, if I think that I'm competing with somebody, I've already lost. Mm-hmm. You're not competing with anybody unless you market poorly. Because if you market well, you understand where you stand out. You start to build your own audience, your own platform, even if it's very small. 50, 100 people in a Facebook group is more than enough, by the way. We have Gina Mauricio, who runs Run with Gina. You can look it up. She has a Facebook group of 200 people. She can't accept any more clients. She's so busy, doesn't outwardly market because she's got her thing, So you're not competing with anybody, which means that your prices aren't compared to anybody unless you allow them to be compared. What this means is that you need to set your own pricing in a way that works for you. And I'm happy to give some guidelines for that if you want, Ren, but I wanted to give you a chance to kind of react to that because that's more like the theory bit before we get into, I guess, the actionable bits.
So let's defer to our other coach here, Catalina. Mm-hmm. Like what about what John said if you were listening to what John said. I certainly wasn't, which is why I'm deflecting. What about what John said sort of resonates with you there? The in terms of price, do you find yourself as a coach looking at other coaches' prices? Is that how you decide what you're going to price, or do you have your own market, as mentioned in previous episodes that you can watch right here or listen to on the podcast?
Where would you go, Len, to find all the other episodes if somebody was interested?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, John, because I just happen to have a sheet of paper right here that mentions that the episodes can be found at onlinetrainer.com/podcast. I think. I don't know which piece of paper that is.
Amazing.
But Carolina, yeah. Yeah, it is onlinetrainer.com/podcast.
Yeah, no,
but,
you got it. You got it. Yeah.
So pricing, I don't even know how I knew that. Pricing, Carolina. So how did you come about your pricing? Did you follow other trainers as John mentioned just a second ago, or did you find your niche, or did you find your market? Like, how did that happen for you?
Well, actually, for me, the biggest help was going through OTA too, because we all have holdups in, our own limiting beliefs in what what's the most that we're allowed, quote unquote, to charge for our services, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have like, oh my gosh, like that's too much. Who's going to pay for that? But then you actually do find that once you find your niche, the people that you really connect with, they are more than happy to pay your set price because you're solving their problem. Again, you're not just selling a program. You're not just selling the, 12 weeks. You're not just selling the thing. You are solving a lifelong problem for them, and that is invaluable. So people are happy to pay you. And for me, the biggest kind of like encouragement, it wasn't that I was trying to copy what other coaches were doing, but it's definitely eye-opening when you do see other coaches stepping up and scaling up the way that they charge. It opens your eyes and it's like, holy crap, it can actually be done. Oh my God, what would happen if I try it? Okay, let me give it a try. And then you start getting comfortable with it and it starts happening. Yeah. People start paying. That builds your comfort level with it, with the numbers, and it snowballs from there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's step two. Like we talked a little bit, I think it was the previous episode, might've been 2 episodes ago, but we talked about overcoming your pre-existing damaging relationship with money. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really valuable to understand that a lot of us, me included, had to overcome that. But the second is this idea of, oh, nobody will pay me that. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's very easy because all of us are in our own head. It's very hard to get out of our own head. So we probably wouldn't pay that because for us, the problem isn't great enough. The pain isn't great enough. We already are pretty good at fitness. So the problem isn't great enough. It was really interesting when we first put out our first cohort for the level 2 of the Online Trainer Academy. I mean, it's not a cheap program. And one of the things that we do is we work with our people to increase their prices considerably. Like everybody in there is selling $1,000 to $2,000 12-week packages for the most part. And not everybody. I mean, we make sure that it applies to them, but like that's kind of what we start at. And some people are actually considerably more than that. But a lot of the people in the group, Carolina, you included, had a really hard time getting over raising that, thinking nobody will pay me for that. And what's interesting is we kind of looked at them, and I did a Facebook Live for the group. And I basically said, I'm like, you guys realize that every single one of you just paid many times what you're going to be asking your clients for to be in this program. Mm-hmm. This is an 8-week program, not 12 weeks, that costs many times more than $1,000 to $2,000. Mm-hmm. And why did you do that? And why is it so hard to see that you could never charge that yourself? Mm-hmm. You are not that good at business, right? But you know that you need to be good at it, but you struggle with it. That's a pain. Fitness, on the other hand, is not something that you struggle that much. Yeah. So you have a hard time seeing that anybody would pay that for fitness because you yourself don't struggle with it. But it makes perfect sense to pay for it for business. Well, what about somebody who's an investment banker who is already good at business? Money isn't their issue, but they haven't figured out their fitness. Mm-hmm. Well, to them, it's literally the exact opposite situation than what you have. But I want to take back because I do think that's step 2, Ren. I want to take it back to step 1. I mean, I love these business coaches who have never actually built a business for themselves, who basically just tell everybody to charge more because some sales trainer that they went to a weekend seminar with once told them to do that. And it's just going to be funny when they all sell Bitcoin and real estate in 6 months. But that's what happens with opportunists, right? They always just jump to the next opportunity. And right now, teaching people online training business is a big opportunity. But that's just my opinion. I want to get back to step 1 of actually doing the work to figure out what your pricing should be for you and your life and what you want to offer. Because every single person we work with, what we found when we work with clients in the Online Trainer Academy, this is level 1, one of the first things we do is we walk you through a process to identify for yourself, what do you want to offer? What can you offer? And how much time do you have to offer that? Because that's what you start with. We work you through a process of buying back your time systematically, but it's got to start somewhere. And that's the idea. And right now, you might only have time to work with 2 online clients. And then once you get that 2, you can buy back your time a bit, right? And what that means is that maybe you can step away from a side hustle, or maybe you can give away some of your clients in the gym or whatever it is. And then you have a bit more time, right, to take on a 3rd and a 4th client and just work that process systematically. But it all starts with take a piece of paper. This is the exercise. We have a calculator that's actually one of the most popular things that we give people in the Online Trainer Academy. But I'll walk you through the exercise here. The calculator basically automates it, includes things like taxes, all stuff that you might not have thought about, and then allows you to do different scenarios and put them beside each other so you can kind of manipulate the numbers and look at it. But the basic principle is this. Take a piece of paper, put a line down the middle of it. And if you're listening, don't pause the podcast because you'll never come back. Because there's always more interesting stuff on the internet. But I don't know, think about doing this later, whatever it is. Take a piece of paper, write down a big line in the middle of it. On one side of the piece of paper, I want you to write all of the things that you think that you might want to offer in your online training program. Don't worry about how it's going to be put together in packages or anything like that yet. Just write down everything you can think of, right? I'm going to write them a program. I'm going to get on the phone for an hour. I'm going to whatever. I'm going to do a grocery store visit with them on Skype. I'm going to whatever you can think of, right? Write them all down. On the other side of the piece of paper, write how much time per month each one of those things is going to take you. And that might be a fraction of an hour. So you can write down minutes. How long does writing a program take you? How long is it going to take you to do a 15-minute phone call? How long? And then you, of course, have to incorporate things like your administrative time, your marketing time into all of this too. A lot of people ignore that kind of stuff when they do online training and then wonder why they have no time and they're not making much money. So write all those things, write down the time on the other side of the paper. Then you can kind of say, okay, if I'm going to put together 2 packages and I'm going to have a high package and a low package, or a high package and a medium package, one is going to take more of my time, one is going to take less of my time. Put together the best 2 packages that you can think of, mixing of these things. And then look at how much time they're going to take you to deliver the package. Right away, you might look at that and just be like, holy crap, that's a lot of time per client. Maybe not. But then you need to actually say, okay, well, how much money do I need to make from online training right now? I call this my freedom number. How much money do you need to make right now per month to be able to step away from the stuff you don't want to do so that you can do more of the stuff you want to do? It's basically like, what are your expenses? What's your rent? Do you have any debt payments? Are you looking after anybody? And then food. What's that number? That's the freedom number. So now you have the freedom number. Okay. Now you have the amount of time you have free to offer a service, which might not be very much. It might be night times. It might be when your kid naps, if your kid naps during the day. But you have that number. You basically need to look at those 2 and say, okay, if I have 5 hours and I need to make $2,000, well, you need to make $400 an hour. That's pretty simple. So when you're looking at your packages, you need to choose what you're doing and price your packages such that it comes out to $400 an hour. That's step one. You might not be able to make it work yet, but step one is to figure out objectively what you need. There's a really interesting story about this. Her name was Sarah. I won't tell you her last name because there's a lot of Sarahs. It's common enough. But it's a very common name. I was at the ACSM conference in San Diego a couple years back. I was speaking at it. It was me and one other person and 58 PhDs at this conference. That was fun. I didn't get along with the other speakers that well. They didn't really understand
It's like a riveting time.
It was not a riveting time. I don't know why I was there. Regardless, Sarah was an Online Trainer Academy student, and she came up to me after my talk, and we were sitting outside under the palm trees in San Diego. It was beautiful. And she basically looked at me, and she said, John, I have a problem. I've been to your program, and I can't make it work. I'm losing money. What's going on? And immediately when somebody says that, they're like, I'm getting clients, but I can't make it work. I'm losing money. Immediately I know that they haven't priced and packaged their stuff well. So I said, right. Cool. I opened my computer and I said, let's go through this calculator together. And within 5 minutes, I just looked at her and I said, you have two options. One option is basically, she was a mom. She had a couple kids. She didn't have much time to deliver the program, and she wanted to offer a very high level program because she had a lot of life coaching experience. So she wanted to offer a lot of phone calls, which of course one-on-one phone calls take a lot of time, which means you have to charge a lot for them. And if you don't have much time, you have to charge a lot for them. If you want to offer it, I said, you have two options. What you see here in this calculator is the objective truth of your situation. Doesn't matter how you want it to be. This is the objective truth. You have two options. You can offer a lot less and charge what you're charging, like literally like an eighth of what you're offering and charge what you're charging and aim for more clients. Or you can charge $800 a month. You can take on 3 clients at a time and you can offer them a great service. What's your choice? And she fought me on it. And I just said, it's irrelevant what you want to happen. All that matters is objectively what the numbers say. And this is what the numbers say. So what's your choice? Well, what happened next was really interesting. Because now she was given direction. She chose to go the high route. She chose to go with the $800 package and look for 3 people. And that completely changed. If you're going to charge $800 a month, you got to network, you got to market in an affluent population. You've got to brand yourself as a premium offering, which means everything from the language you use, to the people that you speak to the networks that you participate in, all of that changes. But if you know that that's what you're doing, you can go after that. 2 weeks later, she messaged me and she's like, I got my 3. Yeah. And she's done.
Sheesh.
Awesome.
That's all she needed.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. It's the hard numbers, man. You gotta, like, for us who are more emotionally inclined, more than statistics and numbers, this can be a killer because I can relate to Sarah. Like, you want to give clients everything and charge as little as possible because that's out of the goodness of your heart. But at the same time, it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work for your life, it's not going to be sustainable and you're going to drop it. And then you're going to be helping no one.
Yep. So you've got to figure out what the objective truth is. What do the numbers show you? If you don't like it, it doesn't matter. Right? You got to start with that. And then you can work on systematically changing it. You know, we tell our clients, you've got to set a goal first and then work backwards, set the steps and relentlessly execute but only when you know what the goal is. Why does everybody, when they start an online training business, completely ignore their own advice? When they're building up their business, they completely ignore their own fitness advice. It's ridiculous. It's all of us say, okay, we got to set a goal with a client. You want to lose this amount of weight in this amount of time. Cool. Here's the steps to get there. Okay, let's execute on those steps. Then when we start a business, we're like, what's everybody else doing? And then we program hop. And then we jump from platform to platform to platform and diffuse our efforts everywhere versus the only thing we tell our clients is have a goal, figure out the steps, put your blinders on, execute.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
No, I feel like on this podcast, we went the 1/8 of what a podcast should do route and going for the volume instead of going high quality content. And then, like, we decided to cut the effort of a podcast into 1/8 of whatever the norm. This is what I'm getting from your story. So what 1/8 of what the normal effort for a podcast would be.
Well, you know what we
and
did,
we're going for volume, so we do less work. That's what I feel like happened.
You know what we did? What's golden rule number 2 of the Online Trainer Academy?
Let everybody know about it.
No. That's number 1. What's golden rule number 2?
I thought golden rule number 1 was do a good job, and then the second thing was let everybody know about. Make sure
No.
everybody knows about
Golden rule number 1 is do a good job and make sure everybody knows about it.
Oh, that's one rule.
Why are you here?
I don't know. That was a low cost entry, the low cost barrier to entry for a host. That's why only was busy.
Yeah, that's right. I really don't pay you very much.
No, you don't.
That's a good point. I'm surprised.
So golden rule number 1 is do a good job and make sure everybody knows about it. And what's 2 then?
Carolina, do you remember what 2 is?
I do not. Do not even look at me.
How do you not know this? Amber, jump on, save me.
She's just shaking her head silently. You guys can't see
Amber's
her.
just shaking
I
her
don't believe
head.
she'll
She's
be
like, nope.
unmuting herself anytime soon. She's
She's like, no, you can't make me.
her screen is
Golden
gone
rule
blank,
number
ladies and gentlemen.
2, my friends, who might no longer be my friends at the end of this. Golden rule number 2 is how would this look like if it was easy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh,
Yes.
it's so
I
obvious.
remember
Now we
that.
all know what it is. Yeah, now we all know what it is. Yeah. That's obvious.
This is how a podcast would look if it were easy.
How would a podcast look if it was easy? That's exactly what we're doing.
We are.
We nailed that.
How would a podcast look if it was easy? And then you start to build up because we really don't know what this is going to turn into. So how would it look like if it was easy? Well, you make sure you get great people who have very interesting personalities that I hypothesized would mesh really well.
Right.
They weren't available, so we found Carolina.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds fair.
I was like, is he paying me a compliment? Oh, no, he's not. Of course he's not.
It was trending in the direction, though.
Right. And then just look at it and say, okay, well, how can we set ourselves apart in podcasts? Well, most podcasts are pretty stodgy. The information is fine, but if somebody really wanted to learn, like do deep learning, they wouldn't listen to a podcast, right? A podcast is where you go to get light information, where you consume a little bit of good information, but you really want to enjoy your time. I mean, this is material coming directly into your head. You want it to be light. You want it to be stuff that you don't need to make notes on. You want it to be stuff that will spur some good ideas, maybe motivate you, maybe push you to take some action, right? And help you identify what your next steps are. If you really wanted to learn, you'd buy one of my books, you'd go to the Online Trainer Academy at onlinetrainer.com/academy and you'd enroll.
Nice. That was smooth.
If you wanted to gain a little bit of motivation, if you wanted to enjoy your time, you'd come here. So how do we do that with a podcast as easy as possible, right? This is not a teaching medium. How would this look like if it was easy? That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And it'll turn into something else. But that's the exact same thing when you're building your online training business, right? Always ask yourself, how would this look like if it was easy? Always go back to that. Frame it on your wall. Ask yourself that question every single day.
So here are the takeaways for those of you, for the 2 of you listening out there.
There's more than 2.
There's
more than 2. I'm going to check the stats after
like
this.
2
I'm gonna update that.
2 and a sleeping child, probably. It's one household. So number 1, when you're pricing your packages, you really want to figure out what the money means to you. If it doesn't match what you need, it's somewhat irrelevant. You don't grab a number out of the air. You go for the hard numbers. You need the data to get to a good number.
You need the data.
Am I understanding that correctly?
For
John?
somebody, $100 a month might be the perfect price. For somebody else, $800 a month might be the perfect price. And then over time, yeah, you want to increase your margins. As you get better at your service, you charge more. The problem is there's a lot of people out there selling high ticket coaching these days to people who are not ready to deliver a high ticket program.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, even if they
Yeah.
can sell it a few times, they're going to fall flat. That's the issue. You can't just jump into it and be like, I'm an online trainer. I'm going to charge $2,000 a month. But you're a shitty online trainer because you've never done it before. Because everybody's shitty at things that they've never done before, i.e. this podcast.
Exactly.
It's
that's
not
a
good because we're in episode 5.
great segue. Great
You know,
segue.
nobody expects it to.
Yeah, we literally just got mics like a week ago.
Yeah.
So
And we're getting props.
If I may
Yeah.
add something there to the kind of like takeaways for the show,
please
is like,
do.
like a big one for me, because I needed this reminder. Like, this is important that we do often, is the setting the goal and then working your way back. So for me, even now, even at the level that I am and what I do, I know, like, I'm feeling it within myself. It's time for me to reassess. Where is my goal? Is it matching what I need? And if it's not, then I got to do that work and work my way back and execute the steps. And so for that, I am thankful, Jonathan, because I actually needed to hear this today. And I hope that our few listeners can kind of like take this also as a reminder that this kind of work never ends. Like you have to be consistently reassessing and making sure, recalibrating what you're doing. And matching it to what you need.
I like that. That was almost poetic.
I think that's a good lesson. You know, both Catalina and I sort of zoned out when Jonathan was talking, not because we were ignoring him like we usually do. I think we were both sort of taking in I think we both, your co-hosts got a lesson today. And my wheels were turning, Jonathan, as you were talking. I was like, man, you know, this story could be me at a different level, but it's still, I think for all of us coaches, it's something that we really, to Carolina's point, we need to constantly assess this.
Yep.
You know, people are reassessing while they listen to this podcast right now. You know, constant reassessment is important in all things. You know, but I really did get some great takeaways from today's episode.
Yeah. And Jonathan needs to reassess how much he pays us.
Pretty much. And the banana holder, like, that's a whole other thing.
Wink.
That's a whole other thing.
There's this really interesting dynamic forming on this podcast where there's this like superficial, very surface layer respect that when you go one level deeper, it's just so obvious that it's not there, that it's put on just enough that we all keep our jobs.
I like it. I like this gig. Don't take it away from me.
It seems to just be growing that way. It's like we'll say something nice to each other every once in a while, but then very quickly reverse our steps. Like, no, I didn't mean that. Like, I thought that I meant that, but then I thought about it and went deeper and like, no, I didn't mean that.
Well, that's been episode 5. Amber, do you have anything to add to what we've done here? I'm going to go through the show notes stuff here in a second. I didn't forget this time. Anything, okay. Amber? You got anything for us? No?
Yeah, Amber. What's up, Amber?
I'm just concerned about the direction with fantasies and banana holders. I'm still wrapping my brain around that. So
good notes. Email us that. So you can find all the links in the show notes, as always, at onlinetrainer.com/podcast. Jonathan usually does this part because I forget nearly every episode. So whatever I'm not saying, he'll say it in like 5 seconds after I'm done with it. But show notes are there. Subscribe and give us a review maybe in like 5 more episodes. Don't review today. Still a little early. You know, give it time. Right around episode 10, we'll be accepting reviews. Don't want too many reviews 1 through 5. You know, let's get this thing down a little bit better.
I reviewed our podcast today.
Did you? I need to go.
If you go to iTunes, you'll see my review.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you should review it too, Lynn. You too, Caroline.
Let's skew the numbers
Amber,
early.
don't review it. Yeah, Amber, don't review it.
You hold off, Amber.
you hold off until episode 10. But Ren and Carolina, you guys should definitely review it. I'm going to make sure all of our staff do as well.
Yes.
It's very important to, what's the right way to say this? Cheat the system as much as we possibly can. There are ways to get ahead honestly.
Through cheating.
Who's in charge of the record button?
And there are ways to dishonestly take advantage
This is
of
going to be on his
independent anonymous review systems.
60 years from now, there'll be a picture of Jonathan Goodman on the cover of Time, and this quote will be in front facing on that cover.
And I think that our podcast really needs some dishonesty.
Holy crap.
To make sure that it gets into the hands of people who would really have their time wasted by it.
It's
I can do that. I can totally jump on that.
we're well on our way. Episode 5 in the books. Thank you so much for coming to this episode of the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.